we're conditioned to see situations on the football field. You know, a normal injury, a player goes down, teammates gather, take a knee, sometimes an ambulance comes on the field. But when you see players, being on the sidelines before, if there was ever an injury, a player's reaction would always tell me what that injury was, how serious that injury was. And that's when I knew it was a serious situation. Watching teammates, even the Bengals, reacting to what happened last night with Damar Hamlin. We have an update. This is the only update I have, and it came early this morning. The Bills giving an update on Damar Hamlin. He suffered a cardiac arrest following the hit in the game versus the Bengals. His heartbeat was restored on the field, transferred to the UC Medical Center for further testing and treatment, currently sedated, listed in critical condition. Whatever information we give you, we'll provide perspective. We will reach out to the appropriate guests if we can get those guests on. But we will cover the totality of everything that happened last night because it was a football matchup that we had long been waiting for. It's the Bengals and the Bills, playoff ramifications, standalone game here. And then what happened in the first quarter changed all of that. But there's still the fallout from this. Obviously, Damar Hamlin's health. And then you have to start looking at, is this game going to be a tie? What do you do with this in the standings? It is important. And the NFL has to look at this as well. We will show the sensitivity that is needed. At least I hope we will. And if you're with us, however long you're with us, please understand we are covering sports today. You tune in to listen to us cover sports, and there are other sports to cover. There's also, what this means for the playoffs for these two teams. Can they play again? Could they somehow play this game? It's so late in the season, but there's a lot, it moves on. You went to work today. You might be going to school today. Life goes on, and we'll try to approach it that way. But when I watched and I saw the hit, and it didn't look like much. And all of a sudden, when Damar Hamlin got up and then went back down, and then all of a sudden, I started to look at the reaction from the Buffalo Bills players. And I thought, okay, did he suffer a concussion? Because we're so accustomed to that. It's like, oh, okay, that's the game. Then you take a knee. Doctors come out. Ambulance comes out. But when they started to perform CPR, that's when it hit. And what happens in the TV truck, just so you know, they know the sensitivity of it. And then you start to take the wide shots. And therefore, you don't want to see the close-ups of what's going on. And then Joe and Troy went to commercial break. And then they came back, and then they went to commercial break. I knew we were in trouble then. I knew that there was something really serious there. But you're watching this, and they couldn't add anything. And, you have all these players. They've never experienced anything like this. Yes, players get injured. Ambulance comes on the field. I mean, how many times do we see this? Somebody gets injured, they cart them off, gives a thumbs up, and we're like, okay, let's play football again. We're just conditioned for that. We're conditioned for, well, that's just a number down there who got injured. He's got a name on his back. And then we move on. That's what the sport is. The game starts. Then the game didn't start. Back up. And then you started to wonder, how long can you wait? Should you wait? Can you cancel it? What role do the coaches play in this? The captains play in this? The NFL in this? And yes, you do have a 24-year-old man who's on the field on his way to the hospital. And we don't even know if he's going to survive. So there was so much that's thrown in there. And trying to sort through all of it, make sense of it, that's the challenge. Trying to do this to make sure that you're sensitive and fair, but also you have to cover the totality of the NFL and everything else that happened last night in sports. And we'll try to do that. I've been doing this a long time, and I worked the night that Hank Gathers passed away. Now, that was not on national TV. And it was the West Coast Conference Tournament. Hank Gathers, Loyola Marymount, they were a wonderful, wonderful team. And Hank was one of the great players in college basketball, but he had heart issues. He had missed time earlier that year, got clearance to play. Went up for a dunk, retreated, collapsed, and died. And I remember doing SportsCenter, but I didn't come on. I wasn't doing the game. It was later that night, and we're covering it for SportsCenter. And we weren't quite sure what happened with Hank Gathers. There was still hope. And then he passed away. But, you're trying to figure out. And I could only imagine what it was like in that truck for ESPN, Monday Night Football with Joe and Troy, Lisa Salters on the field, going back to the studio with Susie. I thought Booger McFarland did a wonderful job. It's like, no, let's cancel. We're not playing football. And he was right. But now what? Because we do move on. We will move on. Yes, Heaton.
It's crazy. You just mentioned before about how we're sort of preconditioned to certain responses. Like, all right, somebody's taken off on a card, and I hope they're not paralyzed. Third down.
Yeah.
You just keep going. As soon as that hit happened last night, and I saw Damar Hamlin hit the ground, and his hands went up, I was like, oh, fencing response. It's crazy that's just even part of our language. I had never heard of that until, I don't know, probably Tua.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now it's just part of fencing response. It didn't even, it registers as, well, he's getting taken out of the game.
It's just because it's the sport and what we've become accustomed to. And it's just like, okay, we move on. And now the game continues. But I want to know, I'm interested in knowing the role that the coaches and the captains played last night, because I'm guessing from just body language wise, and I do have a call into a source on this, that the coaches and the captains got together and said, we're not playing football. And I don't know what the NFL's role is. I don't know what they said, because I know that Joe Buck said 4 times last night, hey, they're going to get a 5-minute warning to be able to come back. I don't know who told Joe that. The NFL said they didn't. I get the feeling, and if it's true that the coaches and the players got together and said, we're not playing football, then that was the right move. Some of the Bills players stayed in Cincinnati. But now we move forward. Yes, he's in a hospital bed. Critical condition. Now what happens? Players going back to Buffalo. They got a game this weekend. What do you do with this game? You got practice. I mean, once again, life goes on for all of us today. No matter what has happened in our life, we have to move forward with this. And the Buffalo Bills are going to have to do this. And the Cincinnati Bengals are going to have to do this. And I don't know what the NFL decides. I don't know what kind of contingency plans. But I'm thankful they canceled the game because it was the right move. Yes, Heaton.
Yeah, I mean, I think the league was in a tricky spot there. Yeah. Because, right, there are logistical things to think about, right? Certainly time of the season, which sounds insensitive to say, but it's the reality of it. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it took the ambulance 30 minutes to leave, so
once they kept coming back from commercial break and the ambulance was still on the field, I thought they were trying to save his life. Because there was no reason to go to the hospital if they weren't going to save his life or at least get some vital signs. That was the feeling I had. Yes.
And especially the player reaction.
Yes.
That changed over time where, like you said, I mean, if we're preconditioned to understand these things, the players definitely know, okay, somebody's hurt. Let's get down on one knee. Let's get in there. Positive thoughts for our brother, and then we'll get back to the game. But as that changed and you saw the reaction of players, you certainly got the idea pretty quickly. It was way more serious.
Yeah, Paul.
Right after the ambulance left, it was very murky of what was going to happen. Were they going to start playing again? You saw Joe Burrow was out there throwing the ball to stay loose or stay warmer for whatever reason. Then Zach Taylor, the head coach of the Bengals, walked over to the other sidelines, which I've never seen before during a football game under any circumstances. And they start talking and covering their mouths, and you're like, okay, they're deciding what's going to happen here or what, at least for the next 20 minutes, what they're going to do with their team. Moments after that, they went to the locker rooms.
And I'm wondering if the NFL said, hey, get ready, we're going to resume this game. And maybe the coaches and the captain said, no, we're not playing. And if that's the case, I'm glad, because it was the right call. There was no need to be thinking about football in that moment last night. So once again, the update, this is according to the Buffalo Bills, that Damar Hamlin suffered cardiac arrest, heartbeat restored on the field, and he's at the UC Medical Center undergoing further testing and treatment. He is sedated and listed in critical condition. We've talked about the contingency plans as we move forward. What's the NFL do with the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals? Do they just play 16 games this year? Do you factor in winning percentage when it comes to the playoff seeds? I know there's the sensitivity level, but my job is to cover all of this. And it's not only the health of this 24-year-old defensive back, but also as you move forward, games this weekend. Buffalo Bills off today, and Stephon Diggs was at the hospital last night. I don't know if he's still in Cincinnati. You got practice on Wednesday. Then you got the Patriots game coming up. What do you do with the Bengals? Can you play that game? Should you play that game? But we'll wait and see. They're going to have to make an announcement here probably pretty soon. But if this is September, you can navigate. You can manipulate the schedule a little bit to maybe reschedule this game. But here we are, 6 days away for the end of the regular season, and you're running out of time, running out of space. 877-3DP Show, email address danpatrick.com, Twitter handle at DP Show. If we don't have any further updates, I'm going to bring back something we had in the first hour, an interview with Joe Danneman. He is a sports anchor in Cincinnati at Fox 19. He was there on the sidelines and really provided a wonderful update there, and we'll bring that back. He saw what we were trying to see, or we couldn't see, and trying to figure out, were the players told that they had 5 minutes to get ready to come back at any point in the evening? Were they told that? Because I can't imagine. If I'm the NFL and I just saw what those faces look like, there's no way I can say, hey, get it together, you got 5 minutes, get back out there. And the only reason why I keep bringing this up is there's a disconnect between the NFL and what ESPN was reporting. Because Joe Buck told us 4 different times, about the players getting 5 minutes to get ready to come back out. Troy Vincent, who works for the commissioner, said that's not true. I just don't know how the NFL can say, after they have a press conference after this, when the game is canceled, that somebody didn't call ESPN and say, tell Joe that's not true. I don't understand. If you know that he's saying this, and he said it a couple of times, did somebody call? Or why wouldn't you call just to say, no, that's not true? Because it makes the NFL look like they're totally insensitive. They're callous to what happened. Hey, you got injured, get in the ambulance, and let's play some football here. I haven't heard anybody reporting on this, but other than what we had last night, there was a conference call with the NFL, and you also had what Joe said during the game, trying to figure this out. And the NFL said, no, it's absolutely not true. That we did not say you got 5 minutes to get ready. And Joe said that 4 different times. Yeah, Pauline.
As I've been thinking about it here, because it's you could always picture a possible miscommunication, because it appeared that the officials on the field were discussing verbally with both coaches. And I wonder if they went to the coaches and, a throwaway line, hey, take 5 minutes here, or take 5 minutes. Maybe it was one of the things where the referees went to the two coaches, like, hey, let's take 5 minutes here and see what's going on. And that maybe got misconstrued, picked up by a sideline producer or host and brought up to Joe.
Yeah, but the NFL should still have said to Joe Buck,
sure,
Joe, it's not true. I mean, that's your broadcast partner.
They also could have been engaged with, all the other logistics.
No, that's misinformation.
Sure.
Misinformation. I mean, I want to be fair to both sides here, but I'm watching going, there is no way you can ask them to go back out and play a football game. But that's what the appearance is, and that's what I was trying to find out. We'll give you updates when we get updates on his condition, but as of right now, that's all we have. And it's been about 12 hours, 11 hours since the last update there. Hope for the best. Certainly, by all accounts, seems like a wonderful man, 24 years of age, in his second year. And, you start to think of all these different scenarios. I'm watching, and so many things came to mind. Hank Gathers, when he died. And I said before, I was working SportsCenter that night. And he dies right in front of you on video. Now, we didn't have the game live. We had video there. We had a freelancer who was shooting the game, getting us highlights. And loyal to Marymount, Hank Gathers, very famous. That's 32 years ago. And he had an issue earlier in the year, had to take medication, but he was cleared to play. And you see this footage where a man is dying right in front of you. Because he goes up for a dunk, walks back, collapses. They didn't have a defibrillator there. And I don't know how many medical people they had back then. And he's dying right there in front of you. And it hit me hard last night as I'm watching. I'm wondering, am I watching somebody die again? And when they started doing CPR, and I was thinking, this doesn't happen. And then you saw the players, and then the ambulance, and then the ambulance stayed there. And I thought, oh my God, is he dying right there? And then leaving the field, what do you do if you're a player? The Buffalo players stayed reportedly in the locker room till around 12:30. Now, I don't know if you're waiting word from the NFL. Was there a possibility of playing the game tonight? I don't know if he was okay. I have no idea. There's very little information that's come out so far. But those are some of the questions that I had as I'm watching this. But you're watching somebody right in front of you, and I could not forget about Hank Gathers. He died right there in front of us. You're trying to find information. How's that happen? But he had a medical condition. I don't know if there was any, pre-existing conditions for Damar Hamlin. So far, there's none. And it looked like a tackle that happens anywhere, anytime. Could be high school, could be college, pros. Wasn't violent. He jumped back up and then fell back down. A cardiac arrest. But the NFL going to have to make some decisions coming up. And it's not easy. As I said starting the show, this is an imperfect situation where you're just not quite sure, but you're trying to cover it the best you can with the sensitivity it deserves. But you also have to look at what is a bigger picture here with the NFL as they move forward. There'll be football this weekend. Is there a game Thursday night?
I don't think this week there is one.
Everything is scheduled for Sunday.
Okay. Is it Sunday and then the Patriots play the Bills? Is that, I know that the Lions and the Packers are the Sunday night game. Yeah, Marv.
There's Saturday games also.
Okay, all right. But yeah, we're 6 days away from the end of the regular season. A couple other things that happened. Yeah, Paulie.
Yeah, Saturday, they announced it yesterday that they're going to have Saturday games. 4:30 p.m. Eastern, Chiefs at Raiders Saturday. 8:15 p.m. Eastern, Titans at Jaguars. Then the entire rest of the slate is on Sunday.
And Buffalo plays New England. Is that a 1 o'clock start on Sunday?
That's correct.
Okay.
And then the flex game is 8:20 p.m. Eastern, Lions at Packers. So the Lions and Packers will know the result of the Rams-Seahawks games because the Seahawks are still in the mix when they play each other on Sunday night.
And there's a chance Tua is not going to play for the Dolphins in the game against the Jets. And it's a must-win situation for them. They were 8-3 at one point. He was an MVP candidate, and he's not practicing right now. Some of the other items, bowl season, Tulane with a win over USC in dramatic fashion. And you had the Rose Bowl last night, Penn State with a couple of big plays, long plays, beating Utah, and Mississippi State covering against Illinois. You also had basketball with Donovan Mitchell scoring 71 against the Bulls. That's one of those, oh, by the way, that would be one of the leads today when you think about it. Somebody scored 71 and joins a pretty exclusive category there of players who've scored at least 70. I was wondering, he also had 11 assists. That's the most assists by a player scoring at least 70 points since 1982-83. He had 11. Devin Booker, when he scored 70, had 6. David Robinson had 5. When Kobe had 81, he had 2 assists. Yeah, Paul.
I kind of like to know the opposite stat on that one. Has anyone, I'm sure they have, had a 50-point game with no assists?
Wilt had a 70-point game with no assists.
Hey, the job is to get to the best player, right?
So Wilt, let's see, he's had 70-point games where he's had assist totals 1, 1, and 0. All right. He had a job to do. He did it. But Mitchell accounted for 99 points last night. Yes, Tom?
I could see you passing early in the game, but once you're at the 60-plus mark, you probably think, you know what, I think I'll just...
Yeah, I'm going to take it from here. Yes, Eaton.
Doesn't have anything to do with assists, but Steven Adams, I think it was, had a funny quote the other day. He had 17 rebounds in a game, or just a ton of rebounds. And they were asking him about it, and he was just like, well, my teammates can't shoot, so they just kept missing shots, and I just kept collecting the ball.
Yeah. That's why you look at those rebound totals from back in the 50s or 60s or 70s. Look at the field goal percentages. They didn't shoot a very good percentage.
Is that the reason?
Yeah. Yeah, if you shot, I think Bob Cousy shot 40% from the floor in his entire career. That's why when Jerry West came along, if you watched basketball prior to Jerry West, and then when Jerry West started taking his jump shots, you're like, that guy's playing a different game than those guys. It'd be like a set shot,
Yeah, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Dan, who's the first guy you remember being a deep shooter? Was it Maravich or other? Where it's before the three-point line, so there's no reason to shoot deep. Do you remember some guys being deep shooters?
Rick Mount played at Purdue, wasn't a good pro, went to the ABA. Bill Melchione, Louis Dampier, they played in the ABA where he had the three-point shot. They were great deep shooters. Bo Lamar of Southwest Louisiana led the nation in scoring, was one of the great deep shooters. Joey Hassett, I think his nickname was Sonar. What a great nickname. When you're Sonar, you can shoot. I think Joey Hassett was Sonar. Yeah, Paul.
I remember we were doing an interview. This might be my all-time favorite interview on the show. We had Larry Bird on about 8 years ago, and you asked him, let's discuss the greatest deep shooters in the game. Are you in that conversation? He goes, yep. He just said, yep.
Well, I also asked him, when did you start to get the green light? 6th grade. So in 6th grade, Bird had the green light to shoot whenever he wanted to shoot. John in Texas joins us. Hi, John. What's on your mind today?
Hi. Good. I just wanted to go back to what Mike Florio had said about this being the real-time precedent for the NFL to deal with with a death on the field. And, of course, we hope he did not die, but he did for a moment at least die on the field. But for years we've been hearing that this is the NFL's worst nightmare. Why is it that there is not, in case of emergency, break glass type of clause figured out somewhere for if this does happen, so that they have an immediate decision to make?
Well, I think it did happen, John. I mean, they moved pretty fast. It was pretty fluid. It may not have been reported in a way that seemed fluid because they were trying to gather information. I don't know where the commissioner was. I don't know if he was at the game. I don't know if he was at home. Was he in his man cave? I don't think they all gather on a Monday night, sit around and have wings and beer and go, let's watch the game together, guys. I still go back to somebody need to be in communication with ESPN to help Joe Buck understand what was going on the field. Whoever told him, the NFL should have helped that person because that was misinformation. Because my immediate reaction is, oh my God, has the NFL not learned? And then I saw guys who were warming up. And I thought, man, maybe that's real, that they're telling you got 5 minutes. And it just felt like, let's get this guy off the field and let's play some football. And I thought, God, are we that callous? Because maybe we just accept that. We're like, yeah, okay. Man, thoughts and prayers. That's all I hear. Thoughts and prayers up. Well, a little bit of applause there when he went off the field, and I'm going, oh, my God, no football. And Booger McFarland was the first to say, no, there's no football. They're not playing football. Yes,
I wonder if there's anything left over from, I don't know, a year or two ago in COVID when games were getting canceled. If there's some type of protocol in place just from what they learned during that time frame, or to see how to reschedule this game, if that's where they're leaning back to, And
Florio brought up something I had not heard from anybody, and that is, do you take winning percentage now, and you only play 16 games if you're the Bengals and the Bills? Or can you take away the 2 weeks from the NFC and AFC title games to the Super Bowl and make it only 1 week in between? And maybe you allow the Bengals and Bills to play a game. Everybody is going to get basically the same amount of rest except for the Bengals and Bills because they would have to play another week. I don't know. Thankfully, I don't have to figure this out. Yeah, Paul.
If you go back to 2020 or the first COVID year, they had COVID postponements almost every week. As late as week 15, 3 games were postponed. That said, the NFL got every single game in that year. At some point, they got them in.